review. So today, the topic that we will be talking about is self-authorship.
Dun 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 dun.
So on today's topic of self-authorship, we're going to be relying on this movie that we have really been talking about today, and it's called The Namesake. So before we jump in and do that, we're going to talk about what self-authorship means to us. So you want to give a little brief overview of what self-authorship means?
So like self-authorship, it has a lot to do with just like your journey as a person, which then gives you the ability to like create your own sense of self and to sort of form your own identity.
So we have this main character, Goggle, in The Namesake, and so throughout this film, I feel like he really illustrated this
Self-authorship.
Yeah. So how do you think that self-authorship shows up throughout The Namesake?
Well, through this movie, we exhibited that Goggle didn't really like his background, his true background, what his family embraced, because he was picked on for his name. He was picked on in high school for everything that involved his religion and his culture that his parents embraced. So he became Americanized and became traditionalized to the ways of society so that he could fit in and not be such an outcast, which is what he viewed in his own life.
I agree with that. I think being so Americanized made him hate who he was as a person. How does this self-authorship, how does it impact the understanding of it? So I never seen how someone's life could be so different because of the simple fact I never took the time out to step to someone and say hey, I want to learn more about your culture. That's just something as Americans, I think that I don't do, and I think it becomes a normalized thing, and I don't think that should happen. So
I think when you come to sort of deciding for yourself, whether to accept the culture you come from or the culture that you're exposed to daily, I think Goggle, as the character, kind of represents this mixture of, I grew up in one society, but my family was another way, and they're from a different place. And I think that there are a lot of people in our country that experience the same thing that Goggle did, or you grow up in this schooling and culture that tells you you need to be American, and then you sort of depart from what your parents and your family are to try and fit in, but then you realize that you should take just the best bits or the pieces that you like or the pieces that fit you most to become your own person.
It was relatable to see the process of self-authorship through him, because I can relate to having different cultures at home and then going to school and seeing something completely different and having to figure out so what do I do? Do I go the American way? Do I go the Haitian way? Do I go with my culture? What is the right way? And seeing how he had to go on a journey to find himself really was a house.
Building off of your statement, I can personally relate to this too, because coming from the culture of Bulgaria, I was born there, but I never lived there. So I grew up in the States. I felt like I was mostly American, but my parents spoke Bulgarian, I spoke Bulgarian. It was just when it came to societal standards, it's no one knows about my culture really per se. And so it was kind of hard to express it, because when I told people, they'd be like, oh, what is that? And me, I never lived there, so I could tell them only so much. It just kind of made me feel off. So I never really I wasn't always open about yeah, I'm from Bulgaria. I was pretty much just raised in Florida. I was kind of built off. I was yeah, I'm from Bulgaria, but I never lived there. I was never I'm Bulgarian. I never accepted it.
Yeah, you always had to clarify yourself.
Exactly.
Also goes to show you sometimes when you try to find yourself, things will try to bring you right back to the same place you were, because as we saw Goggle, he got married the way that his culture wanted him to an Indian girl, but she turned out to not even be the type that he thought she was essentially wasn't comfortable with her name, didn't want to change her name, and she ended up having an affair. And she was Americanized, and she had the same problem that he had. So it's just like, of course, that marriage didn't last at all, but it just goes to show you how obstacles will be thrown at you and try to bring you right back to the same place.
But at the end, he said, "I feel free now."
Yeah, and my greatest takeaway from that is just like the social cycle that we talked about in the previous episode. Yeah, and how you want to break that cycle or change, or you want to moderate who you are and find your own beliefs within your same values and morals and beliefs. So, in closing thoughts, because it looks like we're running out of time here, just a couple, like, what are some of your greatest takeaways and just some...
My greatest takeaway is that although we all have like different perspectives of life, we all still have a journey of finding ourselves, like realizing who we are through our experiences.
My greatest takeaway also, like, just going back to like how I can relate to myself, and just seeing how he was able to realize that societal standards aren't always like what you think they are. Like, you have to really find yourself to be happy. Like, that's the whole point of self-authorship, is finding yourself, finding what you want to like stand for. So that's what I took away from it.
I definitely like agree with what both of y'all had said, because a lot of self-authorship is like, I mean, actual like journey and the long process of it is like what makes it so like special and important, because it takes a really long time to like break away from the stuff your parents told you or like the stuff that school told you, but then when you finally become your own person, like it's kind of like the sky is cleared and like you totally understand now and like you're a different person.
Yeah, I think I could agree with Emma. So my greatest takeaway also is just, what is society teaching us? But it looks like we are running out of time. Audience, we all appreciate the audience. And thanks for tuning in, and catch us back next week on the 49er View.